Good evening, everyone. Um, Pending any particular questions from you, and I think sessions such as this are most useful with full participation from the audience rather than just sitting there passively. I will give a general introduction to what's going on at the moment in terms of the opportunities in mainland Europe, and then it's over to you to ask me questions. Otherwise, I'm going to have dinner. So welcome to the future. Welcome to a future which maybe wasn't one that we predicted couple of years back, but it's here and it's there and it's going forward. And talking to a lot of Irish students, there are those who want to be doctors, there are those who want to do psychology, there are those who say to me, Guy, anything, just get me out of here and I'll do what I can. So we have more Irish students now applying to study abroad than ever before. One of the most attractive things, other than getting out of here, is the fact, and I say this with trepidation, seeing as I'm at an institution which is working with you on maximizing your points. One of the major attractions of studying mainland Europe is points are totally not irrelevant. You go to 7 or 8 universities in Netherlands which are higher ranked than Trinity, and points are not relevant. So going back to the Netherlands, and I'm going to focus on Netherlands quite a bit because that is the country which has by far the most Irish students these days. The other popular destinations are Poland, Italy, and Denmark. But in the Netherlands, 90% of the programs don't have a selection procedure. That means supply of places equals demand for places. So where supply equals demand, and if 272 people want to do archaeology in Leiden, Leiden have to create 272 places. That's how come that's possible. We have the resources and tradition to do that. Where supply equals demand, there's no need for points. We'll look at minimum entry requirements later, but you have a right to an education if you get minimum entry requirements, and you'll see that they aren't demanding. And the 10% of programs in the Netherlands that do have a selection procedure, by and large, Dutch universities are forbidden by law to select exclusively based on grades, on points. So they have to use at least 2 other measures, things like a letter of motivation, an exam based on a lecture, a textbook exam, aptitude test, those type of things. Sometimes they do bring in grades as a 3rd or a 4th measure, but by being only 1 of 4 measures, they're very diluted in terms of their importance here. So 90% of programs don't have a selection procedure, 10% do. And then we look at medicine and veterinary. In those days, and time is over there somewhere, but in those days when I had hundreds of people in a hall meeting Polish med and vet schools, Italian, Spanish, Czech, Croatian, we had about 506 people in the room, 500 or 600 people in the room, students and their parents. A mother of Ireland put her hands up while a professore from Milan was speaking about studying medicine in Italy, and she put her hand up and said, sorry, what grades, what points, what subjects does my daughter need to do medicine in Italy? And in a very Italian way, he shrugged, raised his eyebrows. I don't care, he said. Totally and utterly irrelevant to study in even some of the oldest universities in the world to study medicine. We're talking about Bologna, the oldest university in the world, founded in 1076. We're talking about Pavia, Padua, Siena, Milan, La Sapienza in Rome, some very, very venerable universities with excellent reputations, excellent med schools, points, grades, leaving cert subjects, relevant experience, interviews, totally and utterly irrelevant. We'll look at what they do select on a bit later. So that's some introduction to that world where points aren't relevant. In other words, you have a right to an education. So there's a few people that have gone before you. Top left there is Danny, Dublin Danny. And I can use this slide as an introduction to the different types of universities. In Northern Europe, you have both research universities and university applied sciences. So in Finland, in Germany, in Netherlands, in Denmark, in Sweden, you have university applied sciences. In Sweden and Denmark, those university applied sciences are called university colleges. Anyway, you have university applied sciences on one hand, and on the other hand, you have research universities. Research universities are the more academic. As if you remember, I said 8 of the Dutch universities are higher ranked than Trinity. They're very book-based and they're hard work. University Applied Sciences, they're still academic, but they're much more focused on a particular employment destination.
Don't open the door.
And gives you a way of opening the door. Is that what you said, Carl? And they focus on a particular employment destination. They're much more hands-on, project work, teamwork, internships, that type of thing. And they're generally good, thorough preparations for employment in physio, in business, in engineering, those art, music, those type of things. So Danny there, top left, the University of Applied Sciences you can apply to up until August. So often you know what your Leaving Cert results are before you apply. And Danny looked like he was going to get business in DCU or Tala. Didn't really think that was him. So I got him into the Hague University of Applied Sciences to do European studies. He loved it. His first internship was with OECD in The Hague, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, in Brussels, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. It was a UN body. And then, as is often the case, when you graduate, one of your first employers is one of your two internships, and he was employed by OECD in Brussels. He's since been promoted to OECD in Washington, and he's one of their leading communication PR people, and he's doing a fantastic job, and he's loving it, obviously. Having a great time in Washington. To Danny's right is Molly. Now, Molly, whereas Danny was Dublin, urban, Molly wasn't. She was from a sheep farm in the hills above Waterford City. And just her and her friends to go into Waterford City at night was a big ask. For her to go to Amsterdam, and you see her there in Amsterdam with her bike, and all Irish students in the Netherlands have at least one bike. For her to go to Amsterdam to study psychology, she told me, I've never been as frightened in my life when she arrived. Yes, the Randstad area, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, can be very urban, very New York, very, very, very London, not necessarily the most welcoming and friendlier places. But she, I'm meant to be meeting people. Are you not a co-host, Carl? She got used to it and got to love Amsterdam, got to love the Netherlands, and she completed her degree in psychology in Amsterdam University, UvA, one of the top ranked Dutch universities, within 3 years, because in the research university, the degrees are 3 years, whereas Danny, who did his degree in The Hague, 4 years. So she completed a degree in psychology in 3 years, and then she's now doing her master's in psychoanalysis in University College Berkeley in California. Wow. Below Danny is Emma, who's doing veterinary science in Warsaw. There's 49 Irish first years this year doing veterinary science in Warsaw, 49 out of 80. I know Warsaw are worried it's going to be a completely Irish program if it carries on like this. I think last year, the first year was 38, so it's growing every year. There are so many Irish students in Warsaw that there's a Gaelic football team, a Common, in Warsaw, and both the men's and the ladies' team are the Central European Gaelic football champions, whatever that means. Anyway, she's loving it, and there are increasingly Warsaw-trained vets working across Ireland. So a few near you in Newbridge, from Newbridge through to Tullamore and Burr, there's several Warsaw-trained vets in the area. To the right of Emma is Emily, who also went to a University of Applied Science, Stenden University of Applied Science, which is in Leeuwarden, which is just to the west of the city of Groningen. And Groningen is the city that has by far the most Irish students studying anywhere in the Netherlands. Stenden is interesting because it has a campus in the Netherlands. It also has a campus in Qatar, has a campus in South Africa, has a campus in Thailand, has a campus in Bali. And in the whatever program you're doing, be it business or creative business, which is music management, event management, IT, teaching, and hotel management, which Emily did. She specialized in wine management and spent her 2 semesters in one country, in South Africa, in the vineyards in Stellenbosch. Obviously, she loved it, and she's now a wine manager in a 5-star hotel in the Middle East. So you're beginning to get the idea that if you go abroad to study, the chances are your first your postgrad or your first, second, or third jobs might well be abroad as well. So mothers, if any mothers are listening, I'm really sorry, but they might come back for Christmas, but they might come back for the summer, but coming back permanently might not happen until their 30s, maybe. That's the opportunity that awaits you. Even in this COVID era, going from a degree to a master's to a job is a safe way of traveling. To the right of Emily is Eileen, who studied physiotherapy in one of the 4 Dutch University Applied Sciences that offer physiotherapy degrees. And her bit to the travel journal was she spent one of her first placements in northern India. I know, helping the kids, orphans, who maybe had dietary issues and needed the assistance of physiotherapists. Now she went on to do a hospital placement in Ireland, and actually there's so many Irish students now doing physio in the Netherlands. I think there's 32 first years in Hansa University Applied Science in the Netherlands. There's 22 in Fontys University Applied Science in the Netherlands. There's 15 or 16 in Saxion and a handful in Amsterdam. So very few of those will get the hospital placement in Ireland. So you will need to do your hospital placement in English-speaking countries elsewhere, Cyprus, Malta, the UK, and some are increasingly doing their placements in places like Canada and Australia. I know, tough. So that's just a few of the people who've gone before you. I'm sure some of them might be more relevant to you than others, but it gives you a flavor of what might be in front of you, whatever subject you're doing. So that is that picture there is the city of Groningen. As I said, that's where most Irish students are going, both to the research university, the University of Groningen, and to the University of Applied Science, Hansa University of Applied Science. A huge number of Irish students. I was talking to a guy recently who was there, and he on Instagram, he said, "Guy, you didn't tell me." "What didn't I tell you, Sean?" "You didn't tell me it's good. It's just like Cork." So many Irish students. Yeah, fine. That's your choice. It's helpful in terms of an outlet for a bit of crack, a bit of sense of humor, but maybe you can use the Italians or the Spanish for that. I do know the Dutch and the Irish get on very well anyway. So why are so many going? I mean, there's just over 900 Irish first years in the Netherlands this year alone. There's probably just over 3,500 students, Irish students now studying through English in mainland Europe. And yes, the programs are taught through English. I mean, in countries like Denmark and the Netherlands, almost everyone is fluent in English, particularly those under 40. A girl from Cork, I was talking to not so long ago, she's doing psychology again in Amsterdam, and she's got a part-time job with Urban Outfitters in Amsterdam. She doesn't speak a word of Dutch. So she's working in a retail outlet and she doesn't speak Dutch. That is how good the English is of the locals. So programs taught through English, a very high quality of universities. We looked at the ranking of the Dutch universities. There's very highly ranked and well-respected universities from Italy, Germany, Sweden, Spain. If rankings is your thing, that can be satisfied through universities across Europe. But you might also consider that the ranking of a university isn't particularly relevant at undergraduate level, where you're not really that interested in contributing to the global knowledge pool, if you like, and whether your teachers are or not. That is much more relevant for master's programs, postgrad programs. We'll look at how low the cost is. We'll celebrate again the fact that these universities don't do points. A, they don't understand it, and B, they don't need to do it, because for a lot of these countries, apart from perhaps medicine and veterinary, a lot of these countries supply equals demand. And what is certain is that going forward into the world, whatever this world will be, whether it's online or offline, employment will be increasingly globalized in terms of opportunities. And it's no doubt that 3 or 4 years in Denmark or in Sweden or in the Netherlands, 3 or 4 years there with a group of international students who are fluent in English, and the level of independence that you'll generate, the self-resilience for living abroad for 3 or 4 years, plus the knowledge of cross-cultural communication and internationalization and your critical thinking and your analytical thinking skills all will add to your CV and make you highly employable. Looking at fees, there's no tuition fees at all. Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Malta, Austria, or Germany. Whoa. Austria and Germany have a semester fee of about 200 or 300 euro a year, 200 or 300 a semester, and that's it. Netherlands, the fees are 2209. We'll look at later the level of student finance is available to support those fees. But note the asterisk. The asterisk is referring to a group of programs offered by 9 of the leading research universities that are based on the American model, whereby you join the program and you don't really know whether you're doing a BA or a BSc really. You do 8 or 9 different modules, then you move on to second year, you specialize, you major in one of those subjects. So you do a major in psychology and you minor in another. You minor maybe in sociology or Chinese, whatever suits you. Italy, fees are fixed with reference to family income. So Irish students in Italy are studying business and international relations, 9, 10, 11 med schools, dentistry, and fees are fixed with reference to family income. So anything from 0 up to a maximum of about 4,000 euro, even to study medicine. I know. You see in red, those very popular med and vet programs in Central Europe where fees are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,000 a year. Unfortunately, there is no student finance, either from here or from there to help with fees. But be very, those 49 Irish students I was talking about in Warsaw, yes, they're paying fees of 8,400 a year compared with 3,000 in Ireland. But compared with my daughter who's at UCD paying 1,000 a month rent, the rent for those vet students in Warsaw, guaranteed on-campus accommodation, guaranteed 110 euro a month. Whoa. So if you add up the rent to the fees in Warsaw, you'll find it actually costs less than doing veterinary medicine in UCD unless you're living at home. So there you go. That's a raft of generalizations there. There's sure to be exceptions, but it is helpful, I promise. Going to student finance, you see the big circle in red. If you're entitled to SUSI finance here, you can claim your SUSI maintenance grant and take it with you to any public university in the European Union. There is no contribution to fees, but you can claim your SUSI maintenance grant. In Netherlands, as I said, the fees are 2,209. But by the way, there's a 50% discount for first years on fees. Anyway, whatever the fee is, you are entitled to a tuition fee loan from the Dutch government to pay those fees. It's interest free, and 2 years after you graduate, you have 15 years to pay them back. On top of the tuition fee loan is a living expenses loan stroke grant. The grant element is based on family income, which is pretty low. So if you've got a part-time job in the Netherlands, like the girl who's working in Urban Outfitters, you can claim up to, and you don't have to claim the whole amount, you can claim up to 920 euro a month on top of what you earn. I know. And bearing in mind the rent in the Netherlands, I mean, in the Randstad area, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, you're talking 700 plus a month. In Groningen in the north and in Maastricht in the south, Tilburg in the east, you're talking about 450 to 550 a month, which is very reasonable. Denmark, where there's no fees, if you get a part-time job, you're entitled to a grant of up to 850 euro a month. Very generous. So again, both those living expenses loan and the grant for living expenses in Denmark are based on you getting a part-time job there. Italy is one of the other slightly generous Western European countries in terms of student finance. Once you've been there, the finance is either state-based, either from the local province or from the national government. The national student finance is based on residence. So if your residence there for 2 years, you have the same right to national student finance as Italians. Even in the first 2 years, you get finance based on financial need from the provinces. So you can study medicine in Italy, and years 3, 4, 5, and 6 after your 2 years of residency. Years 3, 4, 5, and 6, you get the same student finance, including rent support, for example, as Italian students. Wow. So run that by me again, Guy. Fees to do medicine in Italy are up to 0 to 4,000. And the average fee being paid by Irish students at the moment is 2,750. Yes. And they get some student finance when they arrive, particularly in the final 4 years of the program. Yes. And the entry requirements, there's no points. No. Wow. There is an entrance test, and we'll look at that in just a second on one of the next screens. In those more expensive Central European countries, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, etc., there is no student finance, although increasingly we're finding that in Lithuania, there's a group of Irish students. There's a group of them studying veterinary, a group studying medicine, a couple studying nursing, 1 or 2 studying dentistry, and one studying occupational therapy. They've got together and persuaded the Ministry of Education in Vilnius that all EU citizens, including Irish, are entitled to the same student finance as Lithuanians. So that is student fee loans, tuition fee loans, and some small contribution to living expenses. So that is very likely. It's not guaranteed, but we can work with you on making that certain-ish, if that's what you want. I know the Lithuanian government is not keen on encouraging hundreds, if not thousands, of students to come to Lithuania based on the fact that it's more affordable than going next door to Poland. So there's some introduction to student finance. Entry requirements. As I said, 90% of programs have no selection procedure. 10% of them have a selection procedure. Those without a selection procedure, you have a right to an education if you get the minimum entry requirements. So the minimum entry requirements are very, very low. If you think about it, the minimum entry requirements for Irish universities, Trinity, UCD, UCC, is 6 passing English to an H5. And the universities have set that minimum entry requirement on the basis that if you get it, they feel you're competent, you're able to handle the program. Unfortunately, points have gone in the way. Supply doesn't equal demand, and where supply is low and demand is high, points are high. That's all they are, points, demand indicators. They're not a badge of quality, a badge of guaranteed employment. They're just demand indicators. So in the Netherlands, where there is no selection procedure, if you get the minimum entry requirements, you have a right to an education. So research universities, if you get 6 passing English, 2 at H5 in some universities, 2 at H4 in others, there's 1 or 2 exceptions to that, where they might be a little higher, you have a right to an education. The University of Applied Sciences, if you get 5 passes, that's it. You have a right to an education, or even QQI 5. You might decide that you're not quite ready for school yet, and you go off to a PLC and get a QQI 5. That meets the entry requirements of University of Applied Sciences. Other countries like Italy, Denmark, Poland, if you get 6 passing English, 2 at H5, you're in. Although be careful, there are substitute requirements. So in the Netherlands, some of the science programs actually require you to have 2 or 3 sciences. 3 sciences to do biomed, 3 sciences to do medicine. By 3 sciences, I mean biology, chemistry, and physics. So what programs in the Netherlands have a selection procedure? All of the psychology programs, 2 of the 4 physio programs, most of the international business programs at the research universities, some of the more esoteric engineering programs. And please be aware that almost all of the engineering programs, you need physics. Most of the business programs at research universities, you need higher maths. Some will accept ordinary maths, and psychology degrees. They're science degrees, so maths is an important component. Remember that, well, not remember, but be aware that the level of maths as taught at Leaving Cert is lower than as taught in most other countries in Europe. So in those business and psychology programs, there's a monster statistics module in first year, which is taught at a level higher than Leaving Cert, significantly higher than Leaving Cert. That can be a challenge for a lot of Irish students, but most meet that challenge by working hard. Now, those 10% of programs with a selection procedure, as I said, Dutch universities are forbidden by law to select exclusively based on grades, so they have to pick 2 other measures, like an interview, letter of motivation, a lecture based on an exam based on a lecture, those type of things. So, for example, physiotherapy in Hansa University Applied Science, which is the most popular program with Irish students, does have a selection procedure. Physiotherapy at Fontys University Applied Science doesn't. Fontys is in Eindhoven. So Hansa selection procedure, 3 criteria. The first is an application form, which includes statements as to motivation and experience and learning styles. That's the first criteria. The second criteria, they send you an extract from a physio textbook, ask you to attend a physio lecture. These days it will be online rather than going to running to do it. And then they test you on that lecture stroke textbook extract, multiple choice test. That's the second criteria. The third criteria is an interview. 3 criteria, none of which are grades, you notice. They score you on those 3 criteria, then they rank you, and then they allot places according to rankings. Whoa. And where there is a selection procedure, where they've ranked you, they will announce those rankings on the 15th of April. So you know whether you're studying physio or psychology or business or engineering by the 15th of April, well before leaving cert. Now, the med and vet schools that we've referred to a bit as we're going through, be aware that, again, the entry requirements are 6 pass at 2 at H5, sometimes, or usually, but not always. Usually, those 6 passes should include biology and chemistry. It's relevant because that's what they want, and it's also relevant because most of them have entrance tests based on biology and chemistry. I know the Italian med schools, dentistry school, have an entrance test called IMAT, International Medical Aptitude Test. IMAT is run by Cambridge Assessment, who also run BMAT, which is the one of the 2 entrance tests for medical schools in the UK. Now, IMAT comprises 60 questions, 1.5 marks a question, maximum score 90. Irish students were getting in last year to medicine and dentistry with scores in the low 40s to high 30s out of 90. So well below 50%. The questions can be tough though. 3 sections. The first section is very BMAT-y, verbal reasoning, logical thinking, but none numeric stuff that we have in HPAT. The second section is very popular with Irish students, 12 general knowledge questions. Whoa. And the third question is multiple choice science questions. Doable, but you have to work hard. And note the stuff in red there in the corner. A lot of the research universities in Denmark and Spain will select based on GPA grade point average. So they're the exception to the rule. Grades are very relevant in a lot of the programs in Denmark and Spain. So when? Well, everything's still open. In the Netherlands, applications opened on 1st of October, where there is a selection procedure. We're getting close to running out of time. It's 3 weeks, I think. 15th of January is the deadline to apply. And then from the 15th of January to often to mid-February, there is a selection procedure, as I said. Other than those programs with the selection procedure, most but not all other programs at research universities, the application deadline is 1st of May. Most but not all programs at University of Applied Sciences, the application deadline is either the 1st of August or mid-August. Denmark, short, sharp application window, February the 1st and mid-March, with a second round of applications for vacant places at the end of July. Italy and Poland, everything's a lot later because the academic year there starts a lot later. Poland, the academic year starts on the first Monday in October. Italy, academic year starts mid-October, sometimes as late as November, depending on the university. Note those 3 countries there in red. Across Europe, generally, the equivalent to Leaving Cert, our high school diploma, the equivalent to Leaving Cert, students will get their results by early July. And Sweden, Finland, and Germany have their applications procedures oriented towards that window. So Sweden, Finland, and Germany, we have to provide our results early or mid-July, which we can't do. It's too early. So if we want to go to Sweden, Finland, or Germany, we need to take a gap year and apply the following year. A few of the programs in Sweden, Finland, and Germany do have a second alternative application window in February for a second semester start, by which time our results are available and we can help you identify those if they're of interest. Bearing in mind, of course, that there's no tuition fees at all in Sweden, Finland, and Germany, which can be attractive. So there's another wad of generalizations there, and we can help make those more precise and tailor them to your needs. Loads of programs available, more being added all the time. So there's a new medicine program now being offered in Thessalonica in Greece, which is yet to go on our website. There's 200 plus business programs, engineering programs, IT, law, medicine, physio, politics, IR, psychology, science, teaching, tourism, veterinary medicine, almost anything that we offer here is offered through English in mainland Europe. So who are we? Well, you don't need to register with us. It's not obligatory. It can be very useful. It's only €38. If you register with us, we can make sure we can help you. We can advise you on program choice. We can make sure you apply in the right way at the right time with the right supporting documents. We can translate some of the quasi-English terms and requirements. That it isn't rocket science, but sometimes it can make the whole process a lot simpler. And it can be reassuring for you and your parents. When you end up having to draft a personal statement, a letter of motivation, you can submit your draft to us and we can make suggestions. Please bear in mind that we come from a fairly high context culture where quite a bit of our communication we rely on people understanding things or innuendo. We're not great at selling ourselves directly sometimes. Whereas in countries like Netherlands and Germany, and Sweden, it's a very low context culture. They tell it how it is. So be aware that they're expecting you to tell it as it is, boast modestly in your letters of motivation. We might put you in touch with other Irish students studying there already on your selected program if you're interested, where there is an entrance test, where the universities permit it, and not all of them do. Where the university permit it, we can send you past papers. And as you get to the sharp end of the applications route, we can give you advice on student finance, accommodation, insurance, that type of stuff. There's a couple of chats in there I've just noticed. Let me see if I can read those. On average, Carl, what has been the average range of points that students have got from Leinster Senior College? Okay, gone to do medicine abroad. Well, Carl might know that. Yeah. My understanding is points are totally and utterly irrelevant. And there are students who are going to do veterinary and medicine with mid 400s. Some have just missed out on medicine or just missed out on veterinary, and therefore the points are a lot higher. But really, it's not that relevant. And as I said already, the Irish universities have put the entry requirements. In other words, a student who can handle this program at 6 passing English at 2H5, even for Irish universities.
You can come in there, Guy.
Sorry?
If I can just come in there?
No. Of course you can, Carl.
No, the main reason I got you to speak, maybe to help answering that particular question, I don't have the actual percentage of results of students that ended up applying to college in Europe, but we had 7 students that got 625 points last year. Now, the majority of them were students who were trying to get into medicine. And I do know of 2 students that got 625 points and didn't get in to medicine. Now, I know when you're talking about medicine, it's a combination of the HPAT and obviously your Leaving Cert results. But that's why I was so keen to have you here and given this particular presentation, because what do you say to a student that gets 625 points and don't end up getting what they want? What's frustrating, I think, as well, what parents need to realize for the students also is that if students get the same points in total, when they're going for particular courses here in Ireland through the CAO, it's random selection, which I feel is actually very unfair. Well, when I hear you talk about an interview, it's a breath of fresh air, really, because I think that's maybe what we should be looking at. But if I'm answering the question, that's the main reason I had wanted.
Particularly when we understand that points are a very poor predictor of success as a doctor or as a vet or as a dentist or a lawyer. Points don't, just because you got high points doesn't mean you're going to be a good doctor.
True. Yeah.
Completely. And in terms of if someone's expecting a precise statistical based answer to that first question, because points aren't relevant, we don't calculate the points of Irish students going to do medicine or physio or anything anywhere. But I do know that there are some students who just missed out on medicine here and have got low 600s, and there's some students who've got mid 400s and are following the course and thriving as long as they work hard. I mean, if you remember, points are based not just on biology and chemistry, but also on Irish, English, and other areas which aren't relevant at all to a successful study and a successful career in medicine. What physio courses would I be able to do with ordinary level maths in Netherlands? All of them. You don't need high maths to do physio in the Netherlands. Lowest living expenses, well, not Amsterdam. There's 3 others, one in Eindhoven, one in Groningen in the north, and one in Enschede in the east of the Netherlands. And living expenses, generally the cost of living, talking to Irish students, it's probably slightly lower for food and drink and coffee. Rent is significantly lower, particularly if you're renting in the big cities in Ireland, particularly Dublin. As I said, in Groningen, you're probably talking about 450 to 550 a month accommodation. In Enschede, you're probably talking about 450 to 500. In Eindhoven, again, you're talking about 500 euros. So it's generally lower. I was talking to a girl not so long ago. We've got Aldi here, and it's even less expensive in the Netherlands than it is in Ireland. Okay, that is what she says. I don't have any key statistical basis to that. But the fact is, living expenses in the Netherlands tends to be lower. And a lot of Irish students do their food shopping in markets. Most Dutch cities have 3 market days a week, and you can get good quality food at a good price in the markets. Any more questions here? Thanks, very enlightening, guys. Pleasure.
Yeah, can I ask you, Guy, would the students that you have spoke to, would they have found IMAT and BMAT a little bit easier than the HBAT?
Well, IMAT is very different from HBAT. It doesn't have the numeric verbal reasoning element to it, but it has general knowledge, which isn't the natural living ground of Irish students. So general knowledge is basically usually some current affairs questions, which requires you to read the newspaper, and some historical culture and art type questions. But again, with a maximum score of 90, and Irish students getting into dentistry and medicine in some of the oldest universities in Europe with scores in the high 30s and low 40s, which is less than 50%, even if this test is slightly challenging, the marks required to succeed aren't that high. Does that make sense, Carl?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
New message. Just wondering about options of courses in Germany. As I said on a slide there, one of the challenges of Germany, you cannot usually go there on the same year that you leave school, because generally they look for your leaving cert results by mid-July, which we can't do. So you need to take a gap year. Most of the English taught programs, not all of them, most of the English taught programs are in the University of Applied Sciences. The English taught master's programs tend to be in the very traditional research universities, though there's a very good liberal arts and sciences programs in Freiburg University. There's a very good physics program in Leipzig. There's a very good environmental sciences program in Brandenburg. So I can talk about isolated programs, but we'd need really to engage with you in terms of your requirements and your interests. Then we might be able to identify programs in Germany. As I say, some of those programs in Germany, a handful of those programs in Germany, you can apply in February for their second semester start, by which time our results are available, but not all programs. Physio, there's a question. What course college would you recommend for physio? They're all similar programs. They're all recognized by the Dutch equivalent of QQI, but they have different specializations and different levels of expertise. There tends to be more support and more Irish students, and I have more confidence in the program in Hansa University of Applied Science in Groningen. That has a program with a selection procedure with application deadline in 3 weeks' time. Be very aware, though, there's only 100 places taught through English. And last year, apart from those students from Canada, Australia, Mexico, Spain, Latvia, apart from all those countries, there were 107 applicants from Ireland for those 100 places. So it will be slightly competitive, and half of your competition will be Irish students. So you need, in writing your letter of motivation, you need to be able to distinguish yourself from other Irish students. Any more questions? Have you got any more questions, Carl?
Would colleges welcome you deferring for a year?
It's not usually done.
Okay.
I mean, as those programs where there's no selection procedure, you don't need to do it. You have a right to an education anyway. So you can walk in this September or next September. Those programs which have a selection procedure don't defer. Some of the med and vet programs, I know Warsaw Veterinary, they do permit deferrals. So more likely in Central Europe than in Western Europe. Those medicine programs in Italy, no, you can't defer. Okay, Carl?
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else got any questions they want to put in the chat room, or switch their mic on and ask us a question directly? No. Okay, that's fine. Was that useful, Carl?
Excellent. Yeah, no, I found it very informative, Guy, you know, and as I said, like, it does create that other option. I mean, if students are passionate about doing a particular course, why not, you know, why not go for Europe, you know, because it's definitely another option. You know, the last thing you want is like our top students leaving the country, but if we're not providing an opportunity for them, you have to look elsewhere, you know.
Well, firstly, two things there. Our country is bigger than Ireland now. Our country is now Europe, though you don't tell the Brits that. And secondly, there are increasing numbers of Irish students who understand that and are applying to Europe, even if they could get into Trinity or UCC here. So that is the most significant trend over the last 2 years. It's not just people who are challenged by the point system here. It's people who have imagination and understand the opportunities that are available going beyond once they graduate. And by the way, if those fees I showed you earlier, if you don't actually feel comfortable doing your undergraduate degree through English, wait a bit and do your postgrad, your master's through English. Exactly the same fees for master's programs as undergraduate programs. So you can do a master's degree in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Malta, Austria, Germany, free. And you can do a master's degree in Netherlands for 2,209 with interest-free tuition fee loan from the Dutch government to cover those fees. So that's definitely another option. Fine. Okay, I can't move my notes again. There it is. So as we come to the end, just remind everyone that for every single person who's listening tonight and others, anything is possible if you want it enough and do something to make it happen. And we can't invent what you want and make you want it enough, but we can provide options to make something happen for you. And as Einstein said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. And if you want to get different results next time, be it you leaving search your relationships or in life in general, if you want to get something different next time, for God's sake, do something differently. And this is an opportunity to do something differently. So all the very best of luck, everyone. And thanks for listening.